From Lagos, Nigeria, this is News Central. I'm Felicity Ezewike. The top stories tonight. Former Vice President Atiku Abubakar sues Tinubu over alleged NYSC certificate forgery. 6 disqualification from 2027 election. Massive security deployment in Osun as President Tinubu challenges INEC to prove readiness for 2027. And Zambia resumes vote counting after pause over reported violence.
In business, Nigerian Upstream Petroleum Regulatory Commission proposes crude swap to cut refinery costs and boost supply.
And in sports, in a bid to look into Nigeria's recent football failures and prefer solutions, the Nigeria Football Federation has set up a 6-man committee led by Fani Amu. Details later.
Tonight begins in a moment. Many thanks for joining us. Osun is under a different kind of watch tonight. With voting just hours away and a curfew in force, President Bola Tinubu is also calling on INEC to ensure a free, fair and credible poll. News Centre's Ayo Olubusi compiled this report.
The countdown is over in Osun State. With just hours to the governorship election, the campaigns have ended. The political rhetoric has given way to the ballot, and attention is now firmly on the voters. President Bola Tinubu is asking the Independent National Electoral Commission (INEC) to make Saturday's election a test of its readiness for the 2027 general election. The president called for a transparent, free and fair process, stressing that every part of the exercise must protect the integrity of the vote. He also directed security agencies to provide maximum protection for voters and electoral officials, warning against attempts to disrupt the election. And security is already taking center stage, as the Nigeria Police Force says 30 commissioners of police are being deployed across Osun State, with a Deputy Inspector General coordinating operations. Police say personnel have been on ground for 3 weeks, preparing to secure the state before, during and after voting. In Osogbo, the mood is a mixture of anticipation and caution, as voters are preparing to make their choice, while security operatives increase their presence. Meanwhile, INEC reports that about 1.9 million permanent voter cards have been collected ahead of the polls, while uncollected cards are with the Central Bank of Nigeria. Now, the campaign posters are silent. By Saturday, the ballot box will speak.
Meanwhile, the Nigeria Civil Society Situation Room says voters remain willing to participate in Saturday's Osun governorship election, despite growing fear over political violence and intimidation. It says INEC has identified 385 flashpoints, while partners flagged 13 local government areas as high risk amid reports of clashes, deaths and vote buying. The group is urging security agencies to remain impartial and political actors to respect the rule of law, while calling on INEC to ensure timely deployment of election materials.
The situation room therefore urged the federal government, INEC and the Nigerian police and other security and law enforcement agencies, political parties, traditional and religious leaders, the media and civil society organizations to maintain heightened vigilance throughout the remaining pre-election period, election day, and immediate post-election period.
We also call on the EFCC, the ICPC, I don't know if they are ahead, but to also be good to their words of arresting people that goes to the police stations with money to induce voters and make sure these people are paraded and convicted.
But there are all other electoral stakeholders, including journalists, including our friends from the global community. The responsibility is all.
And so what we are saying is for the impartiality from the federal government itself, because the federal government is in control of Nigeria. If the president can call and say, don't freeze, call EFCC to freeze or not to freeze, it means the president knows what is going on.
In the meantime, Speaker of the Osun State House of Assembly, Adewale Egbedun, has denied allegations that he attacked the All Progressive Congress House of Representatives candidate, Francis Eniade. Speaking at a press conference at the government house in Osogbo, Egbedun said he only facilitated the arrest of some suspects with the assistance of his security personnel. He added that the two persons allegedly abducted were subsequently handed over to the appropriate security agencies. The speaker called on the federal government, the international community, and civil society organizations to closely monitor political activities in Osun ahead of the election.
What happened yesterday was very clear because we have video evidences of the confessional statements made by the suspect. I was on my way to Odot yesterday, the day before yesterday. I immediately got to Ikirin. I got a call from our local government chairman that the Eniade Francis and his men were chasing him. I advised him to run to the nearest police station, which he did, and that was Okuku police station. On getting to Okuku, we were so lucky because the mob have arrested two of the armed men. So immediately, and for you to know, in my convoy, I have GSS officers, I have police officers. So immediately we saw the mob and the suspect. For us, and for me as the Speaker of Osun State House of Assembly, it's my duty to protect every citizen. So what we did is to secure the suspect from the mob. And what I did was to call the director of GSS immediately. I told him about what happened.
The final hours before voting are unfolding across Osun, with voters assessing INEC's readiness and the security arrangements ahead of Saturday's poll. We'll begin with our correspondents on the ground. Currently, we have Igbelani Omoniyi. We also have Mercy Babajide, who will be joining us shortly. And then we have Omolola Ololade. Before we now bring in Reverend Peter Akinkumi to speak from the civil society perspective. Ni, what is the mood among voters that you've spoken to tonight? Is it anticipation, confidence, or apprehension?
Well, this is one of the nights Osun State has in every 4 years. And a night like this comes with a whole lot of feeling. I'll start with the way I'm feeling out here. It's quite cold, but I'm sure I'm one of the very few people that have the guts to stay out here this late, because most of the residents of Osun have actually gone back into their homes, trying to, stay away, not be caught off in the curfew, and just try to keep in their homes, listen to what is happening on the news. The anticipation is building up big time. Most of the ones we've spoken to before now, because right now we can barely see people on the street, trading activities have shut down, but most of the ones we spoke with said they are ready. But yes, the hostilities, report about violence across board is also causing some sort of reluctancy. Most of them would prefer to monitor a little bit how as tomorrow before deciding to come out to vote. But I can tell you for sure right now there is anticipation, but it's not from a place of they don't want to vote. They want to exercise their franchise, but the fear is there that they would like to first monitor. But for tonight, activities are winding down. We're just here trying to give feedback, and we are just one of the very few people you'll find on the street at this time of the hour.
Omolola, talk to us about the reality of preparedness where you're at.
Yes, I'm presently at Dele Yesa roundabout, where you can see, movement around me despite the curfew in the state. Meanwhile, when we moved to some other part of the town, it was quite calm and solemn, because the activities, especially in the market, parks, activities had quite, dropped down, because a lot of people are adhering, to the curfew. While on the other part of the town, it's not the same. So, but when it comes to, voter behavior, when I spoke with residents, it's kind of a mixed reaction, because while some are saying that, they are scared because of what has happened, prior to the election, Others are saying that they've seen, enough of security presence, heavy security presence, giving them the assurance that all will be well. So I'm joined by a resident. His name is Osogbo, who will be, telling us about his own opinion. I'm giving. What do you think about, what's your, opinion of the election? Personally, are you going to come out to vote tomorrow?
Yes, I will come out to vote tomorrow for the people I love to win.
Okay, so let's talk about the curfew. There is curfew in the, today in Osun State, but as you can see behind me, we still have, several movements by. Why is that?
It's because of the security of the purpose. That's why the people have been shutting down on it.
Okay, so tomorrow, are you certain that, there won't be, talking about violence, are you certain that there won't be violence, and how would that happen?
I'm sure of it. There is not enough violence on it tomorrow. People will come out and do better.
All right, thank you very much. You've heard it from the resident. He said that he's really, really optimistic about tomorrow's vote. He's so rest assured that there won't be violence or anything like that. So people are going to come out to vote, including himself.
All right, let's go back to Eniade. Have you spoken to any of them? Do they have this same self-assurance that the security is enough? Because we've had some concerns in that regard.
I feel the worry is even that the security might be too much, not the fact that it's enough. They know it's enough, so there's just some sort of thin line between we have enough security, but is this not just too much? According to records, there are over 25,000 security operatives that have been deployed for this election, comprising police, NSCDC, and all other military personnel that have been deployed for this. So I think it's more of some people fall on the side of, I think we just have enough to guarantee security, and others are just really worried that why do we have so much in the first place, especially in the capital. Everywhere you go in Osogbo, we could barely, in fact, just by standing here, I've seen some few patrol vehicles that have passed by me here at the capital. We can't say if it's the same experience for most people across, because we have 30 local government areas in Osun State. We can't tell if that's the same experience they're feeling, but at least in about 2 to 3 local governments we've gone to, heard from, spoken with people from that area. Most of them have had that feeling, some form with in the space of, oh, we're worried. Others are just saying, you know what, we really do not care. Security is there to ensure safety. In fact, during the bulletin at 6 p.m., I caught one of the security operatives off guard. I didn't even know it was a security operative, and I was asking him what can he guarantee in his own little way? Can he guarantee, or does the police have plans to ensure that there's safety tomorrow and people can come out to vote? And he had a lot of assurances to give. And let's just say that's what the people feel as well. But tomorrow will determine if that is exactly what the people feel. Because if the polls are to start by 8:30 and the election materials get there on time, from 8:30 we'll begin to observe if people actually come out to vote, or they will wait for another 2-3 hours, as some has already suggested, till they say they want to come out to vote. We'll be able to tell tomorrow by what has been on ground. But it's important to know that voter apathy has been a thing with Nigerian elections in the past years, and we just hope this time around it's better in Osun State. But from what we've heard, people want to vote.
That is really the hope that this time around everything goes smoothly. Omolola, I just want to pick the thread from my earlier question about INEC preparedness for tomorrow. When we spoke yesterday, there was some concern about deployment of election materials. Has that been successfully concluded to your knowledge? And what are the assurances that this exercise will start on time?
Yes, Felicity, as of yesterday by 1 a.m., the materials were still at, at the CBN office before finally moving to the registration area centers as at, 1-2 a.m. this morning. But eventually, they did make it there, and then we made it to one of the registration area centers, that's the RAC center here in Osogbo, where we did speak with one of the electoral officers who assured us that, the materials, both the sensitive and non-sensitive material. I'm talking about the beavers machines or, all the ballot papers have been loaded in the vehicles and, moved across the 30 local governments of the state. As at tonight, he said that many of these materials have been camped, alongside alongside the ad hoc staff, accompanied by those security personnel who would ensure that they are all safe and secure, just to make sure that all materials, including their ad hoc staff, get to their polling units, on time. He did say that there won't be any delays, and that is why, they had to make sure that all the ad hoc staff are close to the polling units where they will be tomorrow.
All right, Tomolola, thank you very much for your coverage so far. Aniye, same goes for you. Please be safe as you go about tomorrow covering voters exercising their franchise. A little more on our headline tonight. ADC presidential candidate Atiku Abubakar had sued President Bola Tinubu over an alleged forgery of a National Youth Service Corps NYSC discharge certificate. Atiku filed the suit at the Federal High Court in Abuja, seeking the court to disqualify Tinubu from contesting the 2027 presidential election. The suit comes amid renewed political attention on Tinubu's NYSC certificate and his eligibility to contest the next presidential poll. The allegations are contained in the legal action filed by Atiku, who is seeking judicial determination of the matter. Legal practitioner Todimu Ige joins us live to contribute to this conversation. Thank you very much for being here. Legally speaking, what must Atiku establish in court to prove that President Tinubu's NYSC certificate was forged, and what burden of proof applies?
All right, thank you for having me. Now, what Atiku, the applicant, must prove to the courts is that the certificate presented by President Bola Ahmed Tinubu was not issued by NYSC. And it was also established the fact that the certificate presented by him was altered, falsified, alterated. That, it was established that, and how would he do this? He has to also establish that the certificate issued by NYSC is significantly different from what was presented by President Bola Ahmed Tinubu.
If the court finds that the certificate was indeed forged or that the information submitted was false, what could that mean for his eligibility to contest the 2027 election at this late hour?
Well, the truth of it is that Section 137 says that whoever presents a false certificate would not be qualified to contest in that election. And what that simply means is that if an allegation of forgery is successfully proven before the courts and the court declares that there was a forgery, what it means is that President Bola Ahmed Tinubu will not be allowed to contest that election. It would be disqualified.
Given that the 2027 election is still, just a few months away, what are the possible legal outcomes of this suit? Will it be concluded in good time in your view? And does it really have relevance at this time, considering that the president is the sitting president and has gone through this process before?
Well, three interesting issues have come up as a result of this action. Number one is that if the action succeeds, then it means that the president will be disqualified from contesting in the 2027 election. Number two is that if the action fails, it means that the president will be allowed to contest, and of course, I will put to rest the allegations of forgery that has come up. And you will know that is in the public domain that this is not the first time that he has been accused of falsifying either his NYSC certificate or university certificate. So, this would put it to rest. Number three is that it's going to be it's going to be an action that the court will be able to interpret. And, it's going to be an interesting one by the outcome. And going by the Electoral Act of 2026 as well, it shows that we will now be able to see and establish that if a false certificate is presented, is it adequate? Is it enough to debar a candidate from contesting. So it's an interesting one, and it's good for our jurisprudence.
All right, we have to pause now. Thank you very much for speaking with us.
Thank you for having me.
The Nigerian police says that it is set to use the 6th edition of its conference and retreat for senior police officers to develop a comprehensive security roadmap for the 2027 general election. Force Public Relations Officer Francis Eniade disclosed this to newsmen in Abuja, saying that the 3-day event will provide a strategic platform for senior police commanders, security experts and other stakeholders to assess emerging threats and develop strategies for credible elections. Also speaking, the managing director of Lenders Consult International, Sheena Phillips, described the initiative as part of the organization's contribution to a protected society. A short break, the news continues shortly. Stay with us. In Guma local government area of Benue State, security concerns have led to the displacement of residents in Abusha, a farming community. The community has been largely deserted following reported attacks that residents say have resulted in casualties and injuries. News Central visited the area, spoke with the remaining residents, met displaced people, and interacted with survivors. Our correspondent Francis Eniade reports.
Abusha is home to these residents, but today many have left. Residential areas are largely empty, farms have been abandoned, and the community's population has dispersed.
Frani deva, ripio ya na wono basha with the ya. Ma gela do book on the town gela ma e when holiday. Umbo ha shon. Ma ko tingi one ma mo man yo ki yo the talk we ma chi had to. Where ma tingi shwam shami.
A recent attack resulted in 4 deaths and 6 injuries. But Abusha is only one part of a wider security crisis. Amnesty International says that at least 6,896 people were killed in Benue over 2 years, with violence affecting almost all of the state's 23 local government areas and more than 500,000 people displaced. The consequences are felt mostly in communities like Abusha, where insecurity has forced residents from their homes and disrupted farming, their primary source of livelihood. Residents say concerns over their safety remain. Local accounts point to repeated incidents and damage to farmlands attributed to armed herders.
So always government the insecurity when you hear me time go kasiba han chuku higena bava na alwe higena bava yasaka kasa da security ma how to maka okay e beva ka yo kurante beva for kogenega.
Following the attacks, many residents relocated to Bajimba, leaving behind homes, farms, and personal belongings.
Kadu ko machenga ha va pakanga ha shi mom de wananga ha tinga ya mvo nyana guma kan tembe di modi motun am va va ke no he me duwa kono we mda wa usu we kwa ya mba ya ya je kwa shine gem go gan we hide ha chukuna no ya we ya kwa ya.
For these families, displacement means losing access to shelter, farmland, and regular income.
We are still appealing to the government that they should go ahead and look for everlasting solution so that our people will still go back to our village and go on with their normal economic activity.
The community leader says residents remain reluctant to return without assurances of safety, leaving many unable to access their farms.
And when we went there to bury our brother that they killed, they are still grazing, and security men are seeing them there. But they did not do anything. The highest they arrest 2 or 3 of them. That is what is going on. They are still, up to now, they are still grazing entirely. So we don't have anything to do with it.
News Central also spoke with people who sustained injuries during the attacks.
ka hechu ka duwe ki kyokera no mo ya heri jenye to shivu berunje ma ya kwe yam duwam tiren kange una mam mavelum kamiye
yenya lukelen se itam ngwa hi shi iba tam ha we ku kunu ba mfe mega
echinya lu pem duwe ba chugu yo bu chugu do for mo fat yo mu duwe ne be chichaga mam gesa metolu ku ya wasekecha ma shene fulani mbama do yimo tochi mava ma ko hunda mu honkiwe na ha abika hunda la ma hingewe ta bogu ka gbele som he ka ma ta bogu ka korum hawo.
Their accounts reveal the human cost of violence that has left families displaced and livelihoods disrupted.
So see kwa humbasa alwe government tini security vangu hembe segaya sifa cho wele nton kpaga si anu amosulu ya kwa hijen ha so fa si ya be wo chi sikakiti ne kwa fulani baba nongunu ya hijen kwa ne ngembala bulu helala. So when the
suspected armed herders came, they shot and killed 2 people from that hut, and this is their grave site. This is where they have been buried, right here. And right now, as we are here in this community right now, we can see some of the armed herders with the cattle right behind us on the other side of this place. We are just behind us from the green vegetation you can see from behind me.
The situation in Abashwa is therefore about more than just an empty community. It is about security, access to farmland, and whether residents can safely return to rebuild their lives.
So now we are appealing to the federal government, to state government, to provide security agency so that they will go back for their various places.
Residents of Abashwa want to return home, but only when they believe it is safe to do so. Until then, this deserted settlement stands as another reminder of how insecurity is affecting livelihoods in rural communities, disrupting farming and deepening displacement across Benue. In Benue, for News Central, Sewese Anyo.
Many thanks, Wese, for that report. Now, on Friday Feature tonight, we take you into a tradition that has helped preserve the identity of Abuja's regional inhabitants, the work of indigenous midwives. Long before modern hospitals and delivery rooms, these women carried generations of traditional knowledge, helping mothers give birth while passing down customs and practices. But in a rapidly changing world, how much of that heritage can survive and who will carry it forward? As the world marks World Indigenous Peoples Day, our correspondent Blessing Aigbe explores the women keeping this tradition alive.
The event brought together indigenous representatives, traditional leaders, midwives, and other stakeholders to celebrate the heritage and contributions of Abuja's original inhabitants, with particular attention on indigenous midwives. Stakeholders say these women have preserved generations of knowledge and traditional practices surrounding childbirth within their communities.
This gathering is more than just a cultural gathering. It is honoring heritage as a pathway to justice.
Honoring indigenous midwives, safeguarding life and well-being is really apt, and it is for us to reflect and see how we can support the indigenous people as caregivers.
It is a tribute to the women whose hands have welcomed countless children into the world. A tribute to the midwives whose knowledge has protected mothers long before hospitals existed.
What are they? What? Keepers of knowledge. The house, the massage, the sons, the prayer, knowledge, over the momentum to younger generation.
Beyond celebrating indigenous midwives, participants also drew attention to the challenges facing Abuja's original inhabitants.
As we speak, no indigenous person has right to land, and it's a very, very serious, gross, fundamental human rights violations. If other Nigerians will have right to their land, and the FCT indigenous have no any other place to call their own, they should also have right to their land.
Some of the reasons why we need to
continue to talk about indigenous people is because it brings about social cohesion. Where you don't have identity, then you don't know yourself.
We are poor because we do not know how to tap our natural resources. We do not know how to tap our intangible and intangible heritages. That's why I'm so happy to see the disabled people and people who produce the craft out of our cultural assets and materials.
With Abuja rapidly changing, stakeholders are calling for greater recognition and documentation of indigenous knowledge to ensure these traditions are not lost. In Abuja, from the Central, Blessing Akibe.
Africa's waters hold enormous economic potential, but turning that potential into jobs, food, trade, and investment will require more than maritime resources alone. At the Blue Africa Conference and Exhibition in Lagos, government officials, business leaders, and experts spent 2 days examining how the continent can build a stronger and more sustainable ocean economy. News Center's Placidia Iwekulie reports that from expanding vessel ownership and strengthening logistics to growing fisheries, aquaculture, coastal tourism, and renewable energy, stakeholders are asking a critical question. How can Africa capture more of the value generated by its own waters?
There is already evidence of what a stronger maritime sector can deliver. Nigeria's port cargo throughput rose from almost 25% in 2025, reaching more than 129 million metric tons, up from 103.6 million tons the previous year. The two-day Blue Africa Conference in Lagos brought together business leaders, government officials, academics, and maritime experts for strategic discussions on ocean-based economic development across the continent.
And to ensure that Africans are the ones driving that conversation and Africans actually own the value chain. We must build it and own it. So that's what this platform is about.
When people come together and bring forces together as an event today, that's where things are scaling up and the synergies come into place. Because we need to know what are we going to do together, who are we going to put around the table, and how are we going to finance it.
Africa shipping must be between our ports. African logistics must create linkages between our markets. We must have African shipyards building African vessels, African banks financing maritime infrastructure on the continent, and Africa technology powering maritime systems. This is not an aspiration. In my view, this is a strategy we must adopt.
Stakeholders say the opportunity extends far beyond cargo movement, arguing that Africa needs greater investment across the wider maritime value chain if it is to maximize the benefits of ocean-based trade.
Economy with efficient and connected ports, safe waters, productive fisheries, thriving maritime business, and opportunity for our young people, while protecting the maritime environment on which our future depends.
Education. Once people are sensitized and educated on the benefit of the ocean, the seas, the rivers, the lakes, the creeks in our different villages and towns, how we should treat them, how we should live with them, how we can benefit from them. Once people understand those nitty-gritties of coexisting, definitely the youth will be able to gain economically, and the community will benefit.
The national policy, how do we scale it down, make it, practicable to the subnationals, to the states, so that whatever the federal government is, dishing down, they'll be implemented down on the state levels, because at the end of the day, the states are where these policies are implemented.
If successfully harnessed, the blue economy could deliver far more than revenue from the sea. It could create jobs for Africa's growing youth population, strengthen food systems, improve trade efficiency, and unlock new investment opportunities. But stakeholders say the real test is turning these ideas into action beyond the conference rooms and into the ports, coastal communities and businesses that drive Africa's maritime economy. In Lagos, for News Central, Placidia Ibekune.
Outside Nigeria, Zambia has resumed the counting of votes after a nationwide suspension triggered by violence and heightened tensions during the electoral process. The Electoral Commission of Zambia says the security threat has been contained, allowing the counting process to continue under measures put in place to protect the exercise. The commission chairperson said the first batch of election results will be announced at 10 p.m. local time. A short break, and when we come back, we have updates in business, sports, and entertainment news. Stay with us.
In business, the Nigerian Upstream Petroleum Regulatory Commission is consulting industry stakeholders on a proposed domestic crude oil and gas swap arrangement aimed at reducing supply costs and ensuring more crude is available to Nigerian refineries. NUPRC Chief Executive Orisemeyiwa Eyesan said the proposed scheme would allow producers to meet domestic supply obligations through existing logistics networks rather than transporting crude unnecessarily across the country. The arrangement is also expected to improve compliance with the domestic crude supply obligation and domestic gas supply obligation. And looking at the equities market, it extended its downward trend as the all-share index declined by 0.24% to close at 242,430.28, while market capitalization stood at 156.501 trillion naira. Now, the decline reflects continued profit-taking and selling pressure, with losses across most major sectors weighing on investor confidence. We now look at sectoral performance. We see that it was broadly negative, with the banking sector falling 0.23%, while insurance also declined 1.49%, emerging as the weakest performer for the day. Oil and gas 0.06% edged up, providing only positive contribution to the market activities. Consumer goods 0.46%, showing some sort of reds right there. And of course, when you look at industrial goods, consumer goods, industrial goods 0.46%, industrial goods 0.75%, both in the reds. And the session adds to the market's recent losing streak, with the all-share index having already shed 2.27% when you look at August 10 and August 13, as investors continue to take profit in highly capitalized stocks. That's it on business. I am Lekan Obanjo.
Hello and welcome to Sports. Former Secretary General of the Nigeria Football Federation, Fani Amu, has been named as the chairman of a 6-man committee to look into the root of Nigeria's recent football failures. According to a statement from the Nigeria Football Federation, the committee will investigate and prefer solutions to the free fall of the game in the country. The committee will also look into the poor performance of the national teams in international competitions, with specific attention to the Super Falcons' failure to qualify for next year's FIFA Women's World Cup finals. Other members of the committee include the president of the Nigeria Football Coaches Association, Ladan Boso, former Super Falcons captain and 4-time WAFCON champion Desire Okparanozie, former Super Eagles star and AFCON winner Mutiu Adepoju, and former FIFA referee Dr. Alex Mana. Chairman of the Sokoto State Football Association, Mala Mohamed Nasiru Saidu, will serve as secretary. To the MPFL, Shooting Stars Sports Club of Ibadan have appointed experienced tactician Salisu Yusuf as the club's new technical advisor ahead of the 2026-27 Nigeria Premier Football League, which begins on the 28th of this month. The appointment comes shortly after the Oluyole Warriors parted ways with head coach Nuruddin Aweroro. Yusuf possesses vast experience in Nigerian football and has previously handled several top clubs and the national team, and now takes charge of Shooting Stars as the club prepares for another challenging MPFL campaign. The team will also make a long-awaited return to the continent after a 27-year absence and have been drawn against Tunisia's CS Sfaxien in the first preliminary round of the CAF Confederations Cup, which takes place next month. And finally, the curtain raiser for the brand new Premier League season will take place on Sunday, where reigning Premier League champions Arsenal meet FA Cup holders Manchester City in the Community Shield at Cardiff's Principality Stadium, which hosts this iconic event for the first time since 2006. Arsenal earned their 25th Community Shield appearance by winning the Premier League last season, ending a 22-year wait for the top-flight glory. They will be keen to lay down a marker for the new season, having spent significantly in the summer. On their part, Manchester City have arguably enjoyed a better pre-season, going unbeaten, excluding penalties, under Enzo Maresca, who returns to familiar surroundings with the goal of continuing the trophy-laden work of Pep Guardiola. Maresca begins by becoming the first man since Maurizio Sarri in 2018 to start his tenure at an English top-flight club in the Community Shield. And that's all on Sports Tonight. Entertainment is up next with Kate.
In the world of entertainment for tonight, Beninese music icon Angelique Kidjo is set to make history as the first African artist to receive a star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame. The 5-time Grammy Award winner will receive the 2,854th star on August 18, 2026 in the recording category, adding another major international honor to a career spanning more than 4 decades. Kidjo's recognition marks a significant milestone for African music on the global stage and follows decades of taking African sounds, languages, and culture to audiences around the world. Now that's it on entertainment news for tonight. My name is Kate Adewale.
That's all we have for you tonight. As always, we'd appreciate your feedback, your thoughts on our programming. Share them. Please use the number showing now on your screen. We're on all platforms as well. At News Central TV, you can send us a direct message. Live programming is on DSTV channel 422, GoTV channel 23, Star Times channel 274, Avo TV, and on YouTube.